Welcome to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. Later in the show, we'll chat with Alexander Chambers, owner and operator of Chambers Meat Company, supplying the best high-quality Native American Navajo mutton, lamb, goat meat, and other products located in Farmington, New Mexico. But right now, host Lanasha Pawadi talks with Francys Crevier, Chief Executive Officer of the National Council of Urban Indian Health.
I'm host Lanasha Pawadi. Francys Crevier is the Chief Executive Officer of the National Council of Urban Indian Health, also known as NCUIH, a resource center for individuals and organizations dedicated to improving the health of American Indians and Alaskan Natives living in urban areas. Hello, Francys. It's an honor to have you on our show today.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. And before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in urban Indian health, research, technical assistance, and advocacy work?
Sure. My background is in Indian health law, Indian law and policy. I went to the University of Arizona, go Wildcats. And so I've, always had a passion for serving Indian country. And, I think that the Creator, has put us on this earth to make sure that, we have a healthy 7 generations moving forward. So that's been my goal. That's what we work on every day. So my background is in Indian law. I joined the Indian healthcare field in 2015 to advocate for better healthcare, that is a trust obligation from the government. So I've been, doing that since 2015, and I just love all the work that we get to do and how much we get to work with the UIOs, the urban Indian organizations like Native Health, and get to advocate on their behalf and support them to serve our people, which is beautiful.
Wow, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Francys. And to start off with the basics, can you tell us what is NCUIH?
Yeah, so we're a national nonprofit organization located in DC, and we are dedicated to supporting and developing quality, accessible, and culturally competent healthcare and public health services for American Indians and Alaska Natives living in urban areas. We're one of the only national organizations that expressly advocates for our people in urban areas, which is, well over 70% of our population. And so we provide technical assistance, training, policy support, and other vital services to urban Indian organizations or UIOs and the communities they serve across the United States.
Oh, that's amazing. And can you tell our listeners what NCUIH does to support the work of Native Health and other urban Indian organizations?
Sure. So we work closely with Native Health, and we brag about Native Health all the time. They're such a great program, and other UIOs to support their work. So we provide various forms of support. So our technical assistance, we have, webinars and communities of learning that help train the staff on the ground to better support and learn from the other UIOs who've already been doing some of, the work. We also support in, policy advocacy. And so Native Health is very involved in, working with IHS and ensuring that IHS is supportive of urban Indian organizations. And so we work on things like that, our legislative priorities, things like 100% FMAP, which would help support our facilities and put more resources into the facilities that would expand services. So the goal is to support the UIOs and being able to continue expanding for all of the needs of all of our communities.
That is so remarkable, and a very much resource that you guys are giving to many urban Indian organizations. Francys, you mentioned IHS. How does NCUIH work with the Indian Health Service?
That's a great question. So NCUIH, we collaborate with the Indian Health Service and broadly the Indian Health System, commonly known as the ITU system, and that stands for Indian Health Service, tribal facilities, and urban Indian health programs. So together we work to address the health needs of all Native people, and through our partnerships and advocacy efforts and shared resources, we strive to improve the delivery of healthcare services and promote the wellness of urban communities. So to give you an example, NCUIH was on the front lines with the National Congress of American Indians and the National Indian Health Board to advocate for advanced appropriations for Indian Health Service. And what that does is stop Indian Health Service from shutting down during a shutdown when the government can't agree on a budget. And so, we are fighting to ensure the safety and security of our patients. And so that's one of the ways that we work with IHS. We advocate for the system and help support it.
Wow, that's amazing. And how many urban Indian health programs or urban Indian organizations are in the United States?
Yeah, so the urban Indian health programs are located, there are 41, and they're operating 90 facilities in the U.S., including American Indian residential treatment centers. And so they're in 22 states, and they are located primarily in areas where the government relocated us. And so, during the 50s and 60s, when they were doing relocation, tribes advocated and Congress agreed that the trust obligation for healthcare follows us there. So when Congress passed the Indian Healthcare Improvement Act in 1976, they made sure that there was an urban component so that they could serve the people in the relocation areas.
And how many people do they serve, and what type of programs are offered?
So UIOs, so they're 70% of natives currently live in urban areas, and UIOs are in heavily populated areas. As you possibly have heard, IHS's data, is a little rough. They are on a very old data program. So we don't have accurate numbers in terms of how many folks they actually serve, but they are intended to serve the 70% of us that live in urban settings. There are a few more facility locations from the Urban Indian Needs Assessment that IHS published a few years back to expand services, but there's currently no funding for that. But the UIOs, they offer a wide range of services, including traditional healing, primary care, behavioral health, dental care, substance abuse treatment, preventative care, and health education and more. Youth councils, community gardens, there's a lot that UIOs do with very little money.
Wow. And why are urban Indian health programs important?
They're important because they are crucial to address the health care needs of Native people who reside in urban areas and where access to culturally appropriate health care is very limited. So these programs, they recognize and respect the unique cultural and healthcare needs of our people and bridge the gap by providing healthcare that respects the traditions, beliefs, and values of Native communities. They help improve health outcomes, reduce health disparities, and enhance the overall well-being of our populations. And so they are an essential part of the IHS system.
Oh, yes, definitely. And we know that COVID has really impacted many organizations. Can you highlight on some of the great work you guys did during COVID?
Sure. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, NCUIH and UIOs worked tirelessly to support our communities. We engaged in various initiatives, including civic engagement efforts to ensure that urban Native voices were heard in the decision-making processes related to the pandemic response and recovery, particularly during the vaccine rollout, which had a challenging aspect due to a lack of a policy. And then we provided critical technical assistance, disseminated accurate information during our and culturally relevant information at our COVID Resource Center. We helped get vaccines and address the unique challenges. We also launched a Be a Good Relative campaign because we know that our people were motivated to get vaccinated to protect, their families and communities. And so, that was a very successful campaign that we did to really encourage folks to get vaccinated. And so, we did a lot. We were able to advocate for IHS and make sure IHS wasn't forgot about, and IHS was able to get vaccines faster than states in some areas. And so, we really worked hard to make sure that that would happen. And at the same time, during a very, during an election season where there's also the census, so we were trying to get people enrolled in voting, trying to get people enrolled in make sure they take the census and make sure they got the vaccine. So it was a lot in a short period of time.
Oh, wow. That is amazing. And it was definitely a quick response, and you guys definitely impacted many communities and gave them that positive resources that they need. Francys, we know you just testified before the House Natural Resource Subcommittee. Can you tell us about the work you've been doing and how it will impact the urban Indian organizations?
Sure. I did testify, and it was an important opportunity for us to advocate for the passage of the Urban Indian Health Confer Act, which is HR 630. This legislation, it seeks to strengthen the relationship between UIOs and the federal government, ensuring adequate resources and support for urban Native health programs. So if this passed, this act will have a significant impact on UIOs by helping prevent missed opportunities, miscommunication, and delays in the delivery of healthcare needs, healthcare services to our urban Native communities. And so by fostering an open and free exchange of information, urban confer sessions can ensure that UIOs have timely and accurate information and enhance their ability to serve their patients effectively. So we're working closely with Congress to get this bill through the end, but we're hopeful that that bill will really help the agencies remember that there are many of us in urban areas and they still have that trust and treaty obligation of healthcare.
Speaking of that, there are, earlier we discussed that there is 70% of urban Indians living in urban areas. Can you let us know, how is the federal government addressing their care?
Not well. Not well. So there's a lot. I mean, they do fund the urban Indian organizations, but they are funded at, national expenditures for healthcare spending are about $12,000 per patient, but for IHS patients, they only get about $4,000 per patient. And for urban Indian organizations, they get even less. They get about $650 per patient for the year. So there's a lot of need to better address the communities, and right now there's just kind of a sole focus on reservation communities, which is very important. And obviously there are issues with being remote, that there are challenges there, but the government right now acts as if all of us live on reservations, and so they are really neglecting a lot of our people.
Oh, yes, definitely. And earlier, you did mention about how NCUIH assists with IHS with advance appropriations. Can you tell us what is advance appropriations and how you work so hard to get this done and why it is important?
Sure. So advance appropriations is about funding certainty and creating health equity for all Native people. It's a simple policy fix that allows funding to become available 1 year or more in advance of a fiscal year. So without advance appropriations, when Congress can't agree on a budget and the government goes into a shutdown or continuing resolution, IHS and UIOs particularly can face closures and their services are reduced. So during the last shutdown, we had UIO patients die due to the lack of funding, which closed our doors. some folks' doors. And so what happens with advanced appropriations, which the Veterans Administration already has, it will ensure that funding is available when it is needed and allows for more long-term planning and stability of IHS. So, we were at the forefront of advocating for IHS, and Indian Country was united to secure advanced funding for fiscal year 2024 and the FY 2023 end-year spending bill. So we built an entire clearinghouse of resources and took this issue to the Hill and to federal agency officials to make our voices heard. And we're continuing this advocacy to secure permanent advance appropriations for IHS for future years so that Native lives don't have to suffer because of budget disputes.
Oh, wow, that is amazing. That is an amazing advocacy work, especially for the communities that it will impact. Francys, what plans does NCUIH have in the upcoming months?
Yeah, so in the upcoming months, we're continuing to our efforts to advance urban Indian health and support UIOs across the country. Right now, we're pushing our urban confer legislation to become law, as I mentioned before, and advocating for full funding for IHS and UIOs in upcoming budget bills. Leading legislation on Medicaid parity for UIOs with the 100% FMAP percentage reimbursement, and continuing our efforts to advance the health of our Native veterans through a housing initiative and improving their care at both the VA and UIOs, and building on our work around missing and murdered Indigenous people and making sure that urban Native voices at the table. So these are just some of the big things that we're continuing to work on in the coming months. The urban confer bill passed the Senate, and so we are hoping it will pass the House, and so hopefully that is upcoming soon.
And we know NCUIH has worked on many different projects and different advocacy work, but do you have any favorite project NCUIH has completed?
That's such a big one. We've been here for, I've been here for 7 years, and so there's, a lot of things that we have done. I think getting, one of the things that was hard during COVID was that our UIOs did not have the authority to use their funding to make the facility safe. They couldn't use funding for, to renovate the AC unit so that the AC unit can clean air, all those kinds of things. And so we jumped into action and found a legislative fix for that and was able to get that passed during COVID. So now the facilities are able to do upgrades that they, to make sure everyone's safe, the providers are safe, and I think that was one of my favorite things because it really did make a difference for everyone. It provided it was allowed to provide a safe space for the staff of the UIOs, so they felt more comfortable coming in and serving our patients and stuff like that. And it made the patients feel more safe. And so that's kind of one of my favorite projects. And of course, advanced appropriations, it was an amazing project. We created toolkits for the public to use when reaching out to their members of Congress to advocate for advanced appropriations. And we brought our advocacy to social media. And so it was really nice to see, a success from other, people, members of Congress were tweeting about it. Healthcare organizations and other Indian health allies all participated in our day of action. And so that was really great to see that, it took a lot of us to get it to the finish line, but it was really wonderful.
Oh, wow, that is amazing. And talking about strengthening the urban Indian communities, we know that you guys do have some amazing upcoming events as well, such as your Harvesting Hope, Strengthening HIV Services in Urban Indian Communities. Can you tell us more about your other upcoming events and a little bit about what each events are geared for and who should attend these?
Sure. So anyone, so our events in general are geared towards staff for UIOs, particularly, but any Indian health provider is welcome. Anyone who works in the Indian healthcare system is welcome, or that's interested in working on Indian healthcare issues is welcome. So our HIV series is about, it's to help facilitate a conversation between UIOs and the agencies to communicate what are the barriers that these facilities are having and making sure that we eradicate HIV. So we're elevating, the urban Native voice, explaining what the barriers are to IHS so that IHS can go and correct and support in any ways that they can so that we can make sure that our patients have access. So anyone is welcome. They're on our website, as well as if we have a newsletter that comes out biweekly that shares all the trainings that we do and other resources that could be helpful. And we do have a archive of all of our communities of learning. And so our communities of learning are really a series of events on a specific topic. For instance, we could do a series on, or we've done a series on behavioral health grant writing so that, from beginning to end, we help you figure out how to write a grant. So that's one example of many. And right now we have ones related to electronic health records or IT support. And so it just depends on how, on the topic, but the topics range vastly, but they're very helpful and they're recorded and available for anyone to use online.
Oh, wow. That is amazing and definitely a great resource. How can someone learn more about the different urban Indian health programs across the United States?
Yeah. So to learn more about the urban Indian health programs, anyone can go visit the National Council of Urban Indian Health's website at NCUIH.org. Our website provides information about the UIOs as well as their locations, services offered, and their contact details. You can also find the websites of each of these 41 UIOs and learn more about all the wonderful work they're doing. Additionally, we regularly update our website with resources, report, and publications related to urban Indian health, ensuring that visitors can access the valuable information of these programs. So there's plenty out there, as well as subscribing to our newsletter.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And Francys, who can our listeners contact if they needed to reach out to somebody for more information?
They could reach out to the NCUIH.org website and reach out to we have a policy section and a technical assistance and research section for targeted inquiries. So there's a form there that you can fill out and someone will get back to you. We welcome inquiries, partnerships, and collaborations, opportunities related to urban Indian health and the work we do at NCUIH anytime.
Perfect. I would like to thank you, Francys, for taking time out to talk to us today to tell us about all the amazing work NCUIH has to offer.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
Coming up, Lanasha chats with Alexander Chambers, owner and operator of Chambers Meat Company. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix, 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 2423 West Dunlap Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue, near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. Native Health provides primary medical, dental, behavioral health, WIC, and wellness services for the urban Native American community. For more information, call 602-279-5262 or visit our webpage at nativehealthphoenix.org. Native Talk Arizona returns after this song. You are listening to Reap and Sow by Soul Searcher.
Welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm host Lanasha Puwadi. Chambers Meat Company is located in Farmington, New Mexico, supplying the best high-quality Native American Navajo mutt, lamb, and goat meat. On the phone with me is Alex Chambers, the owner and operator of Chambers Meat Company. Hello, Alex. It's an honor to have you on our show today.
Hi, thank you.
And before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey, and your background?
Yes, so again, my name is Alexander Chambers, Arizona native. Originally started this venture back in several years ago in Farmington, New Mexico, where we have our brick and mortar butcher shop. It's a butcher shop and a restaurant located at 2010 East Main, Farmington. And so what really sparked my interest in this one particular meat, mutton, is growing up, of course, being Native American Navajo. You know, my grandparents are the ones that raised me, so you know, we were constantly around that year round, and that's where I just sort of developed this business venture, this business idea of really serving everybody, so that everybody can get a taste of what mutton is about.
Oh, yes, definitely. Can you tell us about what Chambers Meat Company is?
Yes, so Chambers Meat Company is a family-owned and operated business that specializes in providing premium quality meats to our customers. You know, we have really developed a strong focus on mutton, which we believe is an exceptional and often underrated meat option here in the United States. But in other countries, it's a very staple meat, like the country of Turkey. A lot of Muslim countries consume a lot of sheep, mutton meat, lamb, goat. So, you know, that's what it's really about. The brand Chambers Meat Company is really, we're really focused on that high quality USDA certified mutton.
And Alex, for those that aren't familiar with mutton, can you let us know what mutton is?
Yeah, so mutton is any sheep that is over 2 years old. Anything below that would be considered lamb meat. So any mutton would be over 2 years old, 2, 3. Prefer that's what mutton is sheep meat. So hanging weight on mutton is normally anywhere from 72 pounds all the way to 120 plus pounds. There's different types of breeds of sheep out there. And so, you know, it's really just focus your preference. I mean, you know, a lot of people think lamb is more softer than the mutton, which can be true by any cases, but any butcher would really well know that, you know, you can tenderize any meat by using different methods and cooking strategies and prep strategies that you could apply to any meat that would make it softer.
Oh, yes, definitely. It does also depend on how you cook it. So you are right. I saw on your website that you obviously sell Navajo mutton, lamb, and goat meat, but do you also sell other products?
Yeah, so Chambers Meat Company, again, is attached to a restaurant, which is a steakhouse in Farmington. We do specialize in T-bone ribeyes, sirloins, tomahawk steaks, and the Flamin' Young. So mutton is just not our specialty. We also have beef steaks that we sell and cook for our customers. And so, you know, it's really just surrounding both meat and mutton, I think, which is really has always been the traditional main dish for American families across the United States.
Oh, yes, definitely. And Alex, where do you purchase your meat?
So a lot of times I personally go out there, meet with USDA certified suppliers. I am a certified butcher through the state of New Mexico. and Arizona. So we do have our butcher license, and I also have a full blown restaurant permit. So in any case, when you have those permits, we have to follow a very strict protocol for safety, food safety, food handling, and all that stuff. So a lot of the USDA certified suppliers I have a good relationship with, and I personally go out there and select each carcass and pick what I think would be best to provide to our customers. What I look for when I go out there on a carcass, on a mutton carcass, is the quality of the meat, and secondly would be the fat content. A lot of times the carcasses might just be marbled in fat, which, by the way, is really good for dry aging mutton and dry aging beef. The more fat you have on a mutton or beef carcass, which is best. So basically, when you're dry aging 30, 60, 90 days out, you're encasing the marble of the meat, specifically the fibers, the muscle fibers on that carcass. You could leave that thing hanging air dry for several months and it'll still be good. So I personally go out there and select each carcass, and I think that's a very key in really just looking at. I usually select meat, high quality meat that I would like to eat, or my family would love to eat. So each cut is specifically tailored to what the Navajo people want and what everyone wants.
Wow, that's amazing. And is Chambers Meat Company a brick and mortar or online?
So like I said, it's a brick and mortar in Farmington at 2010 East Main, Farmington. So if you ever go to Farmington, you can walk into our butcher shop. One side is the butcher shop, and one side is the full service restaurant. So it's all under one roof. And so we are trying to get open a second location of the meat shop down here in Phoenix. And so that's in the works. Hopefully in the next several months that happens eventually. And but if you're going to Farmington, you can walk into our butcher shop, and we have butchers on hand, cooks. You can talk to them about our meat and stuff like that. But really, for here in the Valley of Phoenix, Maricopa County, I specifically bring out the product to the customer.
Oh, wow, that is great. And Alex, we're looking through the products you offer. We went over your Navajo mutton, the lamb, goat meat, and then the other meats you mentioned as well, since you have the restaurant right next door. But we also see that you also offer a cheat. Can you let us know what this is and more about it?
Yeah, so basically a cheat is sheep intestines wrapped in the sheep fat. So there's like a sort of placenta type texture of the fat that covers. So when you're butchering the sheep, when you open the stomach, there's this web of fat that is covering the stomach, the liver, the heart. So the first thing you would do when you're gutting the sheep, you open the stomach, is you would pull that little fat off. It's pretty big. And you would just air dry that. And this is very traditional for me, because my great Nolly, Francys Chambers, would always do this in front of me. And I still follow that same tradition in wrapping, making that a cheat, which is, she's no longer in our family, but, a lot of things, how I watched her butchering the sheep, how she processed all of it. A lot of times I would see her use some of the sheep's stomach, the sheep heart, and she would wrap that sheep intestines with that as well. And I've seen people in Turkey do it another way. So our Navajo culture, how they make the ají, is very similar to how the Muslim does it, and how the Turkey people do it. Except the Turkey people, they make it a little bigger and thicker, and they use camel meat as well. So that's all it is a cheese. A very, it's not made for everybody. It's very rich, buttery, fat when you cook it. And I think that's something that somebody should experience at least once or twice with some tortillas or fried bread.
Oh yes, definitely. That does sound delicious, Alex. But speaking about your product, do you? I think you mentioned a little bit about it. Can you let us know? Do you ship or deliver your meat?
Yes, so we do offer here in Arizona and New Mexico. We do offer in-person shipping, meaning if you order, whether you order from the Farmington store or you order on chambersmeatcompany.com, you can specifically type in an address and we can deliver to your place of business or your residential area. For shipping, we do ship across the United States, but sometimes we do run into shipping problems where, like East Coast, it takes a little while to get there. If anybody would like meat from New York, I've shipped mutton to New York. It takes a little while to get there, but I do have vendors where they hold our product until it picks back up and they ship it out for us. But it's a little challenging for East Coast, but it's doable. The only place that we can't ship to is Hawaii, but in the 50 states we can.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. And Alex, we talked about all of the variety of different meat you have, but do you have a favorite cut of meat you sell?
Yes. So my favorite cut is the classic herb-crusted roasted leg of lamb. In other words, I said that more in a commercialized way of the roast mutton sandwich. So basically, you take the hind leg and you fillet the hind leg. So on a hind leg, there's the hind quarter of the sheep or mutton. You would cut that little block off, and you would just slice that in or fillet it into steak-type cuts. Preferably it'd be cooked over a fire, or you can put them in the oven. That's where the famous terms roast mutton sandwich comes from on Navajo. I mean, you can find that anywhere on Navajo. Roast mutton sandwich. That's how they know it by. And you just take that piece of mutton meat, and put it between a fried bread or a tortilla with green chili, and it's one of those dishes where you just can't. There's nothing like it. I mean, not even a steak could even pass that, but it's very delicious.
Definitely. And would a roast mutton be your favorite recipe, or do you have a different favorite recipe?
No, so I also have the ribs. Mutton ribs are also good. A lot of times, commercially throughout the United States, mutton ribs are used. What they do is they call it a French cut. But on Navajo, on the res, it's just, cutting it off the carcass, throwing it on open fire, and having some mutton ribs that way. But if you go to a restaurant, what they do is they cut the center of the carcass of the meat or lamb down right center of the spine of the sheep, and they'll separate that, and they'll French cut the ribs to about halfway on the rib side on both sides of the cages, and they'll just cut between the center of the spine all the way up to the center of the mutton ribs, and that's where you get your French cut style. That's probably what you guys see. Most people here in Phoenix see at like your Fry's grocery store. They have little lamb chops, what they call lamb chops. But on the res, it's just cutting it, taking it off the backbone, putting it on the open fire, and using your hands really to eat it.
Wow. And Alex, can you share any, if you have any, or share some of your family recipes?
Yeah, so the steamed corn, using dried out corn, which is a long process, and actually has really gotten expensive lately, steamed corn. I've actually been to suppliers' farm on the Navajo Nation and watched the entire process from the time they plant the corn all the way. It's a very long process that these farmers have to produce steamed corn. And I appreciate it's sort of like the caviar of Navajo, where it's to make it takes a long time, and so the market value on steamed corn has gotten really expensive. But boy, if you make that mutton stew with steamed corn, I mean, it's that hard corn. It's very delicious. So I don't know if people know the history about the Navajo steamed corn. So long ago, when the Navajos were forced by the United States government military to do the forced long walk, the Navajo people along the way would not really have a lot of ready-made available food to them. So what my Nolly told me, Francys Chambers, she said during the Juez de times, our Navajo people would dry out the corn and take that dry corn and put it into like a gunny sack or a buckskin sack and preserve it. Because dry corn, it becomes a non-perishable item. You can put that anywhere and nothing will happen to it. You could keep it for years and nothing will happen to it. And they would use that to make the mutton steamed corn. She also would tell me stories of where the sheep meat, they would never cook it. They would just dry it out until it becomes really dry and hard, and they would just hammer it off the bone and that's how you make the very traditional mutton stew. It is drying out the mutton, not cooking it, and just boiling it with some of that dried out aged mutton with some steamed corn. That's the original steamed corn. That's how you make it. But a lot of times these days, people, they either put it in a slow cooker or they boil it or stuff like that. But that's where it comes from, the mutton steamed corn from our traditional ways of how people came about that recipe.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. Thank you for sharing that history with us, Alex. Alex, do you have any future plans for Chambers Meat Company?
Yeah, so really, I would like the entire United States to eventually taste what we have. Like I said, I'm exploring other locations, not just Phoenix, but other various areas to really start having people taste this authentic Navajo mutton. I think restaurants, this particular cut of meat would really complement any restaurant menu. There's a whole lot of stuff from Navajo. If you go into the deep res of Navajo, there are stuff that the world has not even seen or tasted. So I think that type of really traditional, very homegrown, traditional Navajo recipe, man, I mean, that's just, you'll taste nothing like it with the mutton. So, eventually we are getting there. But yeah, that's really the ultimate goal, is to have everybody get a taste of Navajo authentic mutton.
Oh, yes, that would be really amazing. And finally, where can our listeners learn more about Chambers Meat Company, and how can they contact you? And can you also remind us where you're located?
Yeah, so our brick and mortar location is in Farmington at 2010 East Main. So if you're going into Farmington, we are one of the only Navajo-owned establishments that has a butcher shop and a restaurant on Main Street in Farmington, New Mexico. My parents are the ones running that place. They are a very traditional couple from Rock Point, Arizona, so we are very close that way. And so if you're going to Farmington, you can check out the butcher shop or taste the food next door. It's just right there in the restaurant. But if you want to order and you're located in the Valley, you can text me at 505-932-9012, which is my cell. I always carry that cell. So if you want to order some meat, just a few days ago, I've even have people of some white people, two doctors from Tucson order the ribs and order the roast mutton. So it's not just Navajos who like this. It's everybody like that. And if you just text me at 505-932-9012, You can order your meat, or you can order. I have steamed corn. I have blue corn mush. And so if you want to order some of that, I'll have it. Navajo tea as well. You know, and if there's anything that I'm not mentioning and you would like, I could get it for you and bring it. So basically, I'm saving you the trip of running back home to get all this stuff and bringing it here to Phoenix.
Oh, yes. And why would you want it any other way? That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Alex. One last question, Alex. What is the name of the restaurant that is right next to Chambers Meat Company?
It's Chambers Steakhouse.
Chambers Steakhouse. Perfect. Well, I'd like to thank you, Alex, for taking time out to talk to us today, to tell us more about your amazing Chambers Meat Company and sharing with us some history, and also letting us know about some of your upcoming plans, and also giving us some information about the restaurant as well in Farmington.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and 90.7 FM KRDP. Our executive producer is Susan Levy, sound engineer is Javier Quiroga, and our host is Lanasha Puadi. We hope you will tune in again next week. If you have any questions, please reach us at nativetalkaz@listen2krdp.com.